Hello, welcome to another episode of Gathered Glow. I am so glad that you are here. Thank you all. If you are a frequent listener, I got to give you some extra love and appreciation. Thank you for consistently showing up and coming to listen and tune in. And you might have noticed that last week I did not post an episode. Why? Well, physically, there was a lot of things happening, an unexpected, basically full body allergic reaction, a lot of Benadryl, a lot of things. But I have some promises to you for those of you who are really like tuning in and investing in this partnership together. I will never show up on empty. When I show up and I produce these podcasts, I'm going to always give you my all. I'm going to always give you the truth, my real voice, my real thoughts, and the best of me. I'm not here to give you just to show up and to put something out there just because. And that is what I want to talk about today is this like epidemic I see going on. And it is that I think we have more care for consistency as a virtue than we do for discernment. And in a conversation of like comparing, I think sometimes we go to like one is villainized and the other is like better than. And that's not what I'm trying to say. Consistency is important, extremely important. But I think we've gotten out of balance of understanding the importance of consistency and the importance of discernment. And so that's what I want to get into it. I want to get into that. I think we have a space that we've created together where this is not a performance, it's not a demand, that between you and I can share my real thoughts with you, and I'd love for you to put your own thoughts in the comments, whether you agree or disagree. I think culturally we have this lie that has told us to show up no matter what. That like rain, sleet, snow, whatever, you need to show up. You got to show up sick. You have to show up exhausted. You show up if you're grieving. You show up if you've disconnected from your own body. You show up to prove that you are committed, to prove that you care. And I think we've confused endurance with integrity. And I know that, like I say, and I know that the we we're talking about has definitely been me. And you should know this in every episode. There's never going to be a time, very few times, where it's, or ever, not me too. I think we celebrate people who override their body, who override their intuition, who push and override their limits. And so often we call that leadership. And as someone who has dedicated the last decade in learning and development, making sure that leaders have the right tools to succeed, creating cultures and environments for people to thrive, to not just understand their potential, but to really apply their skills in a way that creates an environment for them to feel fulfilled and for others to also achieve their greatness that they can. And so I don't take this lightly. Like, this is not a small thing to me. This isn't like a haha. I'm kind of I'm tired of this mentality winning. I don't think it's sustainable. I think it uses people like batteries and will discard of them at will. And what those people are left with is really going to be interesting. Yeah, I think that this is my, I'm just going to lay it out there. I think consistency asks us, can you keep going? Can you show up every time and keep going? Discernment asks, in this moment, should I? And discernment, I think, can just save us all a lot of trouble, because discernment is not asking, do you feel like it? Right? This isn't about comfort or ease or like kicking up your feet and not doing something because there's some discomfort around it. No, actually, discomfort is essential and it's very important in growth. It's how you usually know you're on the right track of growing, is if there's some discomfort. The problem is the should I. Assuming that you are aware that you only have full ownership, power, authority over yourself, physically, mentally, cognitively, all of the things. Your actions, your life, your choices, they all belong directly to you for yourself. I think that gets lost a lot. So before I even go any further, I think it gets lost or never really taught or explained. Or like your body's your temple. Your whole being, your soul, your body, your form, everything is beyond. It's not just this little temple, this home. It is actively your responsibility every day. What you put into your body, what you put into your mind, where you choose to allow your energy to go, how you care for yourself, how you sit with your emotions, how you suppress your emotions. Every part of you, everything is only your responsibility. And I know that I'm not a therapist, so we're not going down that route. And I know that can feel like a little like, oh, but people have done this, this person treated me this way, this happened, I'm going through this. I understand. But how you care for yourself, how you should care for yourself, is your responsibility only. Especially in adulthood. I'm referring to adults. And so we join the workforce. I think even in school, it shows you more about consistency, being there, repetition, measuring it. And there's really nowhere that teaches you how to discern measures, like discernment should measure wisdom. And discernment, it's not, I think it's like something that I feel like in adolescence should be really talked about more. That should I? Is this in my best and highest and greatest interest, holistically? Not for social causes, not for the approval of others, to please someone else, but for your greatest being. And I have struggled with this. So capacity, I think, is one thing, and it's something that I talk more about on my website, and I will have more coming out about. But capacity, when it comes to like leadership or you as an individual, I like to explain it not as like willpower, which some people are like, I can do it. And you're like, yeah, you're using your willpower. That's not like above and beyond. That's like that you could push this more, but your levels are going into the red, right? You're pushing through adrenaline, motivation, willpower, maybe sometimes like calling it discipline. But capacity really is the available energy you have to meet what life is asking of you. And that's like physically, emotionally, cognitively, and relationally. So when I say capacity is not infinite, I do believe energy is infinite, but in our form, it's not. It's renewable. You can create and generate more of it, but only if you stop pretending that it doesn't exist. That you think that you have full ownership and authority over you, but if you think that you have full range to push yourself, outside of all boundaries, it creates a cost that will be paid at some point. And I think our capacity is adaptable. There's moments where you got to hit the throttle a little and you go a little willpower. But if you are constantly getting into a mode of feeling like I have to push, I'm pushing, or not listening to yourself, I think it becomes dangerous long term, the cost that you're going to have to pay. I think that in capacity, there are three states that, capacity covers what energy is available. But I think there's three states that really consume energy. Maintenance state are the things around us that, it takes just to stay upright. I got to get up. I got to go drink water. I have to go and walk. I have to feed myself. I have to sleep. If this is referring to work, then maintenance would be like, you have to just answer emails to keep things going. You have to show up. Like, this is your baseline responsibilities to keep things functioning. That's maintenance. Maintenance alone is, if maintenance alone is draining you consistently, it will feel terrible. It means that something else is probably really in a deficit or out of balance, because maintenance alone shouldn't be draining you. Maintenance alone has to be done, but like, those things shouldn't be draining. I think that there are friction areas. This is the next one. Friction is resistance. So it's like what you need to do, but you're resisting doing, or what you're trying to expectation of hoping someone else does something and they're resisting, and you're pouring your energy and you're like, why aren't they just moving? It would be so easy if they just did this. If they just communicated more. If this just happened. Friction is stress. Friction could be unhealthy conflict. Maybe you're not dealing with conflict. Maybe the friction that you're facing is draining you because you know that there's a conversation that you need to have, and instead of having it, you're replaying how to have it in your mind 12 times before just having it. Friction is sometimes, I think, inevitable, right? Like, it's going to happen, but we can reduce it. Friction at work, I gave an example for maintenance at work. So I'll say friction at work would be, it would be like the meeting that you have that should be an email, and no one sets an agenda. There's no clear expectations after it. And you sit in an hour long and, people are kind of complaining. It just creates more ambiguity, and you don't really know what to do with what was discussed in that time because nothing really came out of it. So I would say friction isn't bad, but chronic friction is. If you're chronically like dealing with like stress and resistance, or, like gossip around you, anything that is just not progressing, it's not maintaining your life, it's not progressing, it's just friction, like a little bit, but a lot starts really wearing you down. And most people, I think, are operating in way more friction around them than what should be normal. Like, we've normalized a lot of friction. And we've said that it's okay, that you should just adapt, that the friction or the systems shouldn't change, but you should. And I get that thought because you have more control over your response to things. But just because you control your reaction and your responses does not mean that we shouldn't be looking to enhance systems that we all kind of contribute to. Then I think about growth, and growth is important for capacity. Important. Some people confuse growth and like capacity. They're like, oh, I'm drained, I need more self-care. Yes, caring for yourself is important. Caring for yourself, as much as I love a spa day, does not mean like, let's go get a spa day. But that's not what I mean. I mean, like, it should be caring for your own growth, creativity, your vision, your long-term investments in your life and your job, what is really going to grow you. And this growth only happens when capacity exceeds demands. That is often. If you have too much maintenance things, if you have too much friction that's eating up all your time and energy, very few people get to that growth level of investing their capacity in things that grow them. And if all of your energy is going to just showing up, there's nothing left to build. And I think that that's the real problem, is that we have talked about time management. There's energy management around too, but we don't really, on like a life scale, sit down and think, what does this truly mean? Where is the problem? Where does the problem really lie? And like, what is my responsibility in it? So this is where we're going to go a little macro and like work, leadership, systems, and community. I want to talk about this here. So when you reinvest energy into the same outputs, there's a few things that are going to happen. One, I think you can talk about reinvesting it in the same outputs, but if you keep doing that, you're not going to see real change. If you prioritize recent wins, urgent tasks, and visible productivity, neglect the local community relationships, culture, and care. Okay. In life or in work really, like, we've created such powerful cultures in work that I think we've moved away from the culture of relationships, community, and family. And I don't know if that's been intentionally done or if it's just like, work environments understood how to create that sense of culture and values and reinforce it and create a system. And, there's a lot that rides on it so you can provide for your family and for yourself and your well-being. But I think what happens is we pour capacity back into our jobs, into the role, into the title, and we starve the very communities that actually do and would sustain us. And then everything feels a little brittle. And when I say pour back into communities, I mean like even just pour back into ourselves. Quiet to just enjoy your own thoughts and nature and connecting with areas of yourself that maybe we haven't had as much time and intentionality to. Discernment is important in leadership because it is not fragile. I think sometimes leaders are like, I gotta push through, I gotta show up. I think that's easier. I think it's easier to show me that you care less about yourself than an organization. And I think a lot of organizations appreciate that from people. To show me that you would, fall on the sword when there's not a need to fall on the sword, but you would sacrifice so much of yourself for the sake of this organization. And I have a hard time with that because I have myself experienced getting into that mentality and feeling really good in it. And seeing other people I care about deeply, not wanting like blinders on, like working so hard, over committing, pushing themselves through like sheer willpower and not being willing to see the physical toll it was taking on them, but having to watch them without getting specific to this individual, having to watch them have a lot of health hardships and them not wanting to see how it was connected, possibly, to the stress that they were under and pushing their capacity to the limits. I think if a leader doesn't practice discernment, eventually teach their teams how to abandon themselves. And as a leader, you are leading by example. And so the leaders out there that are like, do what I say, not what I do. No, there's no integrity in that. And I think integrity is important in leadership. So I'm inviting you. I mean, I'm not saying this to point a finger that hasn't been pointed at myself first, but I just invite leaders, and by leaders I mean if you are running a household, a family, a job, if you are leading yourself in any capacity or others, to really focus on not abandoning yourself, to listening to what you should do for you, not just because of consistency or willpower or discipline. So I want to know in this season, what does your best self actually require from you? Because everything is going to be a cost. And sometimes the cost is just your discomfort and accepting the fact that you have to make changes. And as much as people want to, grit, there's nothing not negative. I'm not going to knock grit. But I would say that if you are living in a sustained state of having to tap into grit, you are costing yourself detrimentally in so many other areas. And if that is your should, if you want to actively make that decision, like I'm not here to tell you right or wrong, but I want to know in this season, what does it actually require of you to show up as your very best self for yourself? Not what others want to see of you, not what would make them happy, not getting taking on a new project for the sake of them. What do you need for you? And I always ask questions towards the end. And so my next question for you is, when it comes to maintenance, friction, and growth, what can you do to improve those things in your life? What are some friction areas you can remove? And what are some growth areas you can intentionally state for yourself and start pursuing? And saving and reserving enough capacity to truly get them done in the season, in the time frame that you actually want them. And for maintenance things, maintenance or maintenance, you got to do it. But sometimes you can create a better system to accomplish some of those things. So think about systemizing things. It takes a little energy and effort up front, but it creates such a streamlined flow for you going forward. I especially will say, if your body, if your heart, if your soul, if something is whispering to you, listen before it starts yelling. Because it will start yelling. And I have been there. It was yelling at me last week. It was telling me, hey, your body's going through a lot right now. I had a full-fledged covered, and I mean, still is kind of there. I'm covering up a little bit. Allergic reaction that really was, I thought it was small, and then it turned out to be kind of scary and bigger than I expected. And so consistency isn't evil. That's not my point here. But it's not a virtue just on its own. Consistency is beautiful. It's important. I think it helps build trust. And I have nothing negative. Please, I love a consistent person in my life. I think we all love consistency. But if you are putting it more on a pedestal over listening to your own self, I think there's a problem. Discernment is what keeps consistency from becoming self-harm. Capacity is what makes leadership and life and creating community and enjoying our life and being present sustainable And anything worth building deserves more than just endurance. It deserves your intentionality, the best parts of your energy, the fullness of you. And so that's a lot of the work that I focus on, and I will continue to. Not showing up at all cost, but truly having people show up whole. So I love you all. Thank you again for tuning in to this episode. I will see you next week. We'll chit chat it up then. I hope that you go forward and have a week where you are shining so bright and inspiring others. And most importantly, really taking time to sit with yourself and inspire yourself. Be the person that you aspire to be for you. I'll see y'all next time. Have a wonderful week.